What is up? This is the Keyholing podcast with Lemon. This week I have the EBT master, Lukewarm Designs. How are you doing today, Mr. Luke?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Good, good. This was at request of our mutual good friend, Whoa Shut It Down, Right to Refusal, Tony. He, I think, was the first one in the EBT9 beta. He hopped on it pretty fast. When approaching that beta, what were the important things to you when developing this gun?
So the main thing and the whole reason it started and the whole intent of it actually was just to get the geometry correct, which was actually way more of a challenge than any of us thought it was going to be, given that it seems like such a simple piece of shit, it's a high point design that doesn't seem that complex, but it oddly was.
And one thing that's been brought up to me repeatedly by people that have tested it, and I've got it on the screen here for people to look at. This is a good visual one. So if you guys want to go to YouTube and check it out, you can. If not, but he's got the breakdown here of the EBT9, and it's separated into all its parts. 3 frames to choose from, massively improved ergonomics, sear saver option, optic mounts, mag floor plates, tons of texturing. We've got even some muzzle devices. But it is unquestionably the most reliable high point. There's been huge reliability issues in the past. Even though there have been fun high point builds, the low point, the big point, that people really enjoy, reliability has been an issue. And you mentioned geometry. How important was geometry in nailing down the reliability in this process?
I think that was pretty much all of it. It's weird the way High Point built these, that to make them cheap, they tried to combine as many of the functions in the gun as they could into as few pieces as possible. So that means the frame itself is responsible for so much of the geometry for it working. It's not like a Glock, where it just has its pieces that go where they go, and that's kind of it. And the frame can just be whatever outside of, fitting the criteria for those pieces.
So I've talked to Uber Clay, Princeton Revolution catalog beta manager about this, and in the past there have been issues with some of the older Russian or Chinese models because of the factory variation. Is that an aspect here, or is it just High Point not giving a shit?
No, it's definitely the variation. So I think that's the big reason why they won't sell parts to anybody too. So if you look at the way they've gotten these guns so cheap, it's just because they don't have. I'm not gonna say they don't have QC. They obviously have quality control, but it's different than like it's normally done with other manufacturers. So instead of building everything, all the parts within a thousandths or two of each other across thousands or tens of thousands of pieces, they're just all kind of as cast, whatever, and you can even kind of identify like which barrels came out of which mold because they all have their little signatures if you look close enough at them. So they hand fit these guns together a lot at the factory. If you watch any of High Point's actual release videos on their YouTube channel from them, they'll admit that they just kind of mention it in passing that they bend a lot of parts to fit, or they don't mention anything to do with like the barrel pinholes, but you can tell they just kind of throw them into a jig and just hand drill them kind of within an area, not exactly to within 0.1 or 0.2 millimeters of something.
That's
So
incredible.
that's a lot of what it comes down to, is just the spread of possibilities between all the parts kits as far as dimensions and size and tolerance.
And so you are having to factor all these things in when you're designing. How many times did hairy situations like realizing they do specific things come up in this, or did you know about all this before?
No, I learned it step by step. So just coming into it when I first started it, I don't know why a lot of the other frames didn't run well. So I just decided to clean sheet design it and start it from scratch. And I had a working frame within like a week or two for my kits, and it worked fine. And I thought that was kind of it. And I would get some alpha testers to make sure, and then we'd go into beta testing. Turns out 6 months later, we started beta testing because just the next kit I had someone print, a frame for was completely different. And we learned something new on that one. And then the next guy that comes in has yet another kit. And these are all, 9 millimeters or 380s. We find something else out that's new, and I want to say it was probably 10 or a dozen different kits before I stopped seeing new things, new changes in geometry. It
That
makes it a pain in the ass to dev for.
No shit, no shit. Did you come up with funny names or anything for these specific molds, or did you once you see one, you're like, oh, it came from it's part of this batch or anything like that?
No, I didn't follow it that closely. Like when we started the alpha, I was going to start spreadsheeting all this, and to be honest with you, I just got lazy about it. And you kind of once you get through the glamour phase of it, you're just like, let's just get through this and make a working frame. So I'm sure there is some sort of pattern. They can only have so many molds for their barrels or whatever, but it just became easier just to fix it as we went, and we got to a certain point where anybody new who came in the beta with a new kit just didn't have any issues with it, and I figured that we were good. So
That's awesome, and that has been issues with reliability in the past, and often it's written off as a lot of these come from like every gun part or a shitty gun from a pawn shop, and a lot of it is in the past has been written off as, oh, this was just a kit that was in a river, that's why it's fucked up and hard to get running, or but in
right.
reality, it could have been brand new and people had issues with it.
Oh, for
Just
sure.
just because of like where or how it was made. So to the internet autist listening to this, here is a chance to type so many numbers into a spreadsheet, uh, because that would be really interesting to track. And I, our boy Tony will shut it down. Brought that up about that's why they don't offer parts kits. Is that your analysis? That's why they don't, because they can't offer accurate ones.
I think that's most of it. It kind of leads into like the other reasons any gun company wouldn't, which being liability or just getting on the radar of all quote unquote those groups that you don't want to be on the radar of. And because of the nature of the way they build the guns, I think they're at even more risk of that. Because I mean, just kind of imagine what that could lead to when people are having to hand fit these things together and they don't know what they're doing, and they shoot themselves and then try to sue High Point for it, and then every town writes an article about it. So I think they're scared of, I don't want to say scared, but they just don't want to they don't want the liability that any of the other companies do. And I think given the nature of their designs, it's like the worst case scenario for High Point specifically,
Most
in my
definitely.
opinion anyway.
I get that, and I understand them wanting to keep costs down, but I'm going to keep bullying them because they could at least offer it for. Well, okay. I mean, they're obviously probably made in a similar way, but my boy Internet Pizza, who I had on, did the High Point carbine, and finding individual parts for it was such a pain in the ass because they don't offer them, right. So like he had to overpay ridiculously for some parts simply because the only other option would be like getting a gun to pillage it from or something. Like
Right.
it's actually kind of crazy the lack of aftermarket support, I should say, but we're just so used to that in a way. Like you
Yeah,
mentioned,
for
like
sure.
other manufacturers, like we're so used
One
to that.
And being in the 3D printing world, I've never had a High Point serial number to give them, but I've heard from people that do that if you have one of their guns, they will bend over backwards to send you parts or help you fix it or have you send it to them if they don't trust you to do it.
Based with, and that part's good, but we're gonna keep bullying them and making their life hell. I've heard
Oh, no
from
doubt.
I've heard from multiple people at events, even in the past year, that you come up and ask them about parts kits, and you get a sigh. Their head shrinks down. They're giving in, fellas. They're giving in. We've got to keep up the
Right.
bullying.
Well, you know
Um,
what? There's like the barrels, for example, they all have a letter on the bottom of them, and it doesn't seem to make sense with anything. I have one in my hand here. It says M. So if they gave us all M barrels, for example, they just set aside all the batches that came from the M mold for the 3D printing guys, then at least we would be working with the same barrel across everything. So I mean, there's ways to handle it, but I don't think they're very motivated, given what I said earlier, and they probably don't make a lot of money from selling parts.
no, definitely, you're right, and I don't. I really think they would, but you're right. Like a risk analysis for them, particularly one that like they want to stay out of the limelight as Glock is being attacked. I get
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
but that's also the goal of these organizations, these gun control organizations, to intimidate companies,
Oh, for
right,
sure.
and to force them to recalculate and make decisions like this. But bullying works, so we will. I hope I'm coming to you guys with the news someday that we have parts kits. But I've been told that there's zero chance in hell. So
All you can do is keep trying, right? It's all the
exactly.
all the autists out there that go to the gun shows, let them know we figured out their pin situation. We can handle it now. We can send those parts
Absolutely.
kits.
We've done a lot of the legwork for them. Bringing it up, Toxic Zombie G, who produced the boombox originally and has actually set up the ballot box for this EBT9. Super cool. I've got it on the screen here. You are shooting it. It explodes. You said your son thought it was hilarious. So take me through the process of shooting this.
So there's actually two suppressors we're calling the ballot box for this. The one that exploded in the video there, that's my first attempt ever in my life at making a suppressor. That was the first round that I ever saw, and it exploded.
Which Chad
I knew. Sorry, go ahead.
Absolute. No, you're good. I don't want to interrupt too much, but absolute Chad firing it without a string. Absolute humongous, lukewarm, humongous balls design. Firing it without a string.
I have to say, I knew it was going to explode because one of my beta testers printed that exact thing a couple days before in better filament, and his blew up on the first shot. So that was more just for the meme to post the stupidity on Twitter, you know. So having said that, I'm still working on that. Toxic Zombie gave me a bunch of design tips that I still just have to get off my ass and go do. And then we have his version, which, as you see on the screen there, is the boom box, just a EBT specific mount. So I'm still waiting on an F1 to get approved for that, so I can print that up and make sure the mount works and is aligned and everything, and then we'll test that out.
Awesome. And talk about real quick how important cost was to you, like staying down in this, because this is something that would have cost more than the gun to put on just a year ago. Like this expands possibilities in a way. Do you think more releases in the future come with more suppressed options, more customized suppressor options because of the form fee free filing?
That's a mouthful. I mean, absolutely. We're already starting to see it. We have a couple other projects in the works that aren't cool yet, that are just getting started, honestly. So I'm not promising anything soon. But that's honestly the only reason we could even really do this. Who's going to pay $200 for a meme suppressor for a high point?
No, 100%. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like it would literally be more than the rest of the build combined. And probably your first few ammo trips. Like it's crazy to think about.
Right. I mean, if you don't go crazy on a gun broker build, you can get 8 kits, not quite that many, 6 kits from gun broker for as much money as an F1 used to be. So as far as I'm concerned, I think every release people are going to do from now on is going to have some sort of suppressor option, because why wouldn't it, you know?
Absolutely. And why wouldn't it? And also, there's so many versatile ones now. There's so many FTNs that can be adapted. The boombox can be adapted. There are so many more options than there was, say, 3 years ago or 2 years ago even.
For sure.
And that work's already been done. So, for example, if someone, like you mentioned, you'd never designed one before, getting those design tips from someone who's made one, or getting quickly adapting an FTN, there's so many more options than, say, even if this had happened a few years ago, which is great. One thing I love about this build is the whimsy. The whimsy is awesome. We've got another thing here. I'm pulling it up. The Tactical Zen Caddy. Super fun. One of the first people to release this. There was a lot of knockoff versions that came after. This is one of the first ones I saw. What do you enjoy about these type of silly functional prints?
I love the memes. I'm a millennial. I think that comes with our generation.
Oh, definitely. Sure. We go full Quark Chungus mode.
Exactly. Any juxtaposition of things that don't go together is always hilarious to me. So who needs to put their nicotine on the side of their gun, you know? No. Nobody, which is exactly why we did it.
Exactly. And I'm glad you bring up juxtaposition. It's one of my favorite aspects of seeing 3D printed guns.
Mine too, exactly.
I love the bright colors with a super industrial upper, like for example, like the Aves or even a JC Arms, where you have this raw metal and then you have plastic goo underneath. That's a bright color. It's such a fun aspect to play with. And from a creative perspective, juxtapositions like existed as like long as human history has. But I think it's such a great way to get people interested in 3D printed guns because it's so obvious for them to see like, oh hey, that's 3D printed like that. Like even just looking at the Zen Caddy, oh okay, you attach that, like that's cool.
Exactly.
And I think that's such a great way to like interest people at the range or the gun store, wherever you may be. I've got an also more functional fun print coming up on the screen. The cat bridge. The absolutely awesome cat bridge. It's being judged right now. How is the cat bridge holding up?
So when did I put that up? That thing's been up for 3 or 4 years. That's Enzo pictured there. He's a little cat. He's only 7 or 8 pounds. But the other one is a chonker, and they've fought up there before, both of them together. So it's surprisingly durable. You just print it, 7, 8 walls, and use good screws into studs, and I don't see it not holding 30 pounds plus.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Fighting on this like a death scene in a movie. That's incredible.
Yeah, I'll
Extremely,
put food up there, and they fight over it. It's hilarious.
extremely cat behavior as well. By the way, we talk about customization and things looking fun. Talk a little bit about the Writ Diaries and your goal going into the Writ Diaries.
So that was something that was taught to me by some of the guys in the maybe famous, infamous nylon room in Are We Cool Yet? I didn't come up with any of that, to be clear. Other people before me discovered that, but no one had ever, put it all together in one comprehensive little thing. So I just started experimenting with it a ton, doing my own thing, and so many people, I post pictures of what I do. So people liked what I was doing and saw it. They asked me, I just had so many questions to ask about it. I figured it'd be easier just to point them towards a PDF. So planned to write that up, and Are We Cool Yet? So they'd publish it, and that's really all there was going into it. Just put everything I knew at the time into it. I've learned more since then, so it probably could be updated a bit. It's a couple years old at this point, I think. But it's a fantastic option for printing, especially before there was, I should say for nylon specifically, because back when I wrote it, especially, there was like no color options for nylon.
Your
Now
choices were
there's
black or gray. That was
yeah,
literally
or natural like skin color.
yeah.
I forgot the brand now. It's one of the more pricey brands. Offers a bunch of colors now, but I think they just discontinued them because I don't think colored nylons are still popular enough for them to keep a production line open or something like that. But they had quite a few nice bold colors. The one downside with the dye is you don't get the boldness of some of those unless you're using specific colors on white or natural nylon. But
No, 100%. You don't get the necessarily the brightness, but to me, this is you get more of an OEM look, more of a traditional muted gun manufacturer look.
for sure, it's almost like a battle worn kind of hue, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Stay Free 3DP. He does ODG, and has got the dyeing process down. I love dyeing milsurp just because it's fun. And you mentioned experimenting. That's so much of what 3D printing as a whole is. Just playing around with shit, right? Like playing around with grips to see which is most comfortable to you. Playing around with filament colors to see what works best with your build. And you mentioned kind of compiling all this together. Sometimes that is such important work to do because, particularly as our FOSSCAT is taken down, I'm sure our 3D2A will be taken down at some point. And it's also heavily moderated. But
I'm surprised it's still up at this point.
honestly, but information gets lost so quick. So having this together in one spot is so important. If you had to recommend what's your personal favorite direction people go with a dye, what would you suggest?
I mean, I've got a soft spot for the purples and those the gray. It's kind of weird how this works, and I can't explain it. But the gray nylons take the purples so well. It looks like you're dyeing white. Honestly, they're the most vibrant out of all of it. But what is it? The reds and purples, probably for the same reason, come out the best. The only one I haven't really experimented with is blue, but greens work well too. Usually the darker stuff, yellow and orange, doesn't really come out at all unless you're starting with white nylon, which isn't as common. But
And I've
there
got
you go, right there.
the purple up on the screen.
See,
Looks
that was
incredible.
That was gray. I think the day before or two, I posted it before I dyed it, and it was bad lighting, but it almost looks like black filament. It's the Polymaker glass filled gray. See, for those that have printed it, you know what it looks like, and you can see how well it takes it. It looks like that Aquanet can behind it.
No, it really does. And at the same time, because it's a nylon, you could convince someone who doesn't understand 3D printed guns or hasn't been around them much. They could be convinced this is like Cerakote or OEM,
Oh, for
because
sure.
it looks like you do get that sheen. That even like, unless it's heavily treated, you don't get from traditional color filament. I love the Polymaker dark purple, but you're not getting an effect close to this with that. Like this is incredible. It looks great.
Yeah, they're two different effects, really. I mean, it's not like dyeing replaces a colored filament. They're two different things, just like I think you're alluding to.
No,
It's got this
100%.
look. I don't know enough about color theory to explain it, but I mean, you look at it, you can tell it's a different thing.
I remember a little from college, but I'm gonna settle with grunting and go, look good.
There you go.
And talking about kind of getting starts and experimenting, your first gun was a quote cobbled together 1911 that didn't run worth shit. Uh, how did you go about acquiring that?
So, I never even touched or saw a gun until, or fired one, especially until I think I was 17. My parents were shitlibs, the kind that, guns kill people, not people. It was my first job. My boss kind of found out how I was being brought up and said he couldn't stand for that, so he took me out shooting. He was kind of a gun nut. It was his old roommate that had, let's just say, a lot of guns. I think he gave that to me just kind of as soon as I turned 21 as my first gun. Didn't tell me anything about it, where it came from. I have no idea. I just remember looking up the serial on the barrel, and the internet told me it was a old World War II GI barrel. The slide was beat to shit. I remember looking up the frame, and I forgot the brand, but it was like the cheapest brand frame you could buy for 1911s at the time. This is like early 2000s. Had the biggest issues, like I said there in the post, it had the wrong link in it. And for those that are familiar with 1911s, they have two different link lengths. The barrel link, for whatever reason, different barrels, I guess, depending on where the pinhole was drilled. And it had the one that was, maybe they had different. It's been so long, I forgot 1911s that the details about them. But I think maybe one of the pinhole sizes was different. Long story short, the barrel wouldn't go into battery all the way consistently. So once I realized that, I put the right link in it. Got one from Midway. They're supposed to be gunsmithed in. I didn't know what I was doing, but I got it to run decent enough. And then a guy I ride dirt bikes with had a spare engine for my dirt bike, so I traded him for it.
Absolutely incredible story to get the first gun, and it really does show the gun community effect of trying to get as many people shooting as possible, right? We talk so much about onboarding new shooters, and to me that's my number one goal, is getting as many people printing guns as possible. And I view that as getting, like, obviously people shooting guns or touching a first gun. And that's such a fun first story because people view the gun community as ostracizing and kind of uppity, and parts of it are, but generally people just love to take people shooting, get people shooting a gun.
For sure. And you know what? I think it's like any hobby. You can say what you just said about any hobby. It's kind of just the
Absolutely.
nature of people, not so much the hobby itself or the object the hobby's about.
For sure, 100%, 100%. There's gonna be fucking annoying people in any, like, in any fandom, in any hobby, in any
Right.
subculture, anything like that.
And on that note, if you want to hear a quick feel-good story, I just mentioned how I was raised by shitlibs. So
Absolutely, go ahead.
so I've got my mom. I'll just fast forward to current. My mom shoots with me now. She's into it. I've kind of straightened her out on the myths surrounding, if you want to even want to call them that. You know what I'm saying? The mass media's idea of guns and what they like to tell the average normie. I've kind of broken over all that, and now she's into it. Not totally into it, but she's a gun fan, so
Well, that's
she
awesome.
loves the colorful stuff and all the printing and work I do. I always show her the new designs and what we're working on.
That's awesome. And that is such a great way to break down those barriers, is to get people shooting and say it's not going to like just covering 3D printed guns, it's not going to explode on you unless you print lukewarm designs first, suppressor design.
Right.
It's not going to bite you. It's not, you're stronger than it. You're in control, and really get them to have the experience. And I don't necessarily think everyone should have a gun or has to have a gun, obviously. But if people want one, they should have the option to make it without being locked in a cage or whatever the fuck. So, breaking down those shitlibs and showing them that it's just another tool, right? Like, it's just the equivalent of going to the garage and showing them how to use a miter saw or whatever it may be.
Exactly.
And that's such a cool story. Have you been able to pill people at the range? Have you gone to the range and people asked to shoot your guns, or you showed them 3D printed guns?
For sure. I haven't gone to the range in a couple years because I just like going to the desert more these days. But when I was, the RSO and the owner, the one I like to go to, loved him. He always came out and checked him out. They got to know me pretty well as the 3D printed guy.
And you can even
Um,
convert FUDs. Like, people consider a lot of RSOs FUDs, but a lot of them are interested in seeing a gun they've never seen before. Very
for
interested.
sure. Well, and the owner of that range, I would classify as a FUD, and he hates Rugers with a passion just for no reason. And brought a GR2, Arthur Claudine's 1022, and I forget which one it was. I think it was the one that was all pink and purple. But anyway, he saw the colors and goes, "What the hell chassis is that for a 22?" And told him it's actually a 1022 because he thought it was a Marlin or something. It's a 1022 with printed everything, and he couldn't believe it. He ended up sitting down and shooting it. Let him run through like 2 magazines with it. Told him go get a printer. I'll show you how. Not sure if he ever did, but
but
yeah,
I,
it totally. I don't even think he was even really familiar with the fact that people 3D printed guns up until that day. And that was kind of the first day he got my name and started recognizing who I was.
and that's
And like you
awesome.
mentioned earlier, the colors really get people because I like to print super bright, retarded candy cone or candy cane looking, ice cream cone looking things, and people always ask. Most people think, especially on handguns, it's just like grip sleeves that I bought in like a rainbow or something, and then you show them, no, it's a whole 3D printed gun.
Yeah, or I've got people think it's stickers before,
Yeah, right.
like the ones you can like lay out like a game controller almost. Um, but yeah, it is so intriguing because you're often, and you mentioned the first exposure to 3D printed guns. So when you have a cool silly one and you let them shoot it, they're like, oh, maybe these people aren't too bad. Like, as opposed to acting super weird and standoffish, which I don't expect any of you to do, but really, like, be patient with these people, explain it. I understand a lot of times they're going to ask dumb questions, the same questions, but it's worth it to me because I've never, and I understand this is like a small sample size, I've never had someone freak out or have a bad experience with a 3D printed gun. Like,
Yeah, I haven't either.
they've been, oh, okay, well, I don't know if I would print it, but oh, I mean, it's fun to shoot. I've had many more examples of people saying, oh, wow, this is the first AR-15 I shot. This is the first, whatever it may be, the first printed gun I've ever shot. And making those experiences good and memorable for them is so much worth so much more than you a perceived waste of 5 to 10 minutes of your time. It doesn't take long. It's not super expensive to let them run through one or two mags. Like you mentioned, particularly if it's a 22, you can really get them hooked that way. Really get them hooked that way.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
we talk about first prints. I've actually got your first print. That is the title for the episode, and let's see here. Oh, that's the one picture I didn't have ready. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness.
Which one are you talking about?
Little Enzo. The this right here. The Hoffman Tactical. Uh, you at Hoffman and say first print. Did I do it right? This was my first print as well. Why did you decide to print a Hoffman as your first print?
So that was just a troll, actually.
Oh my
That's when I was
god!
probably my
Wow!
2000s print.
Wow!
So when did I
I
post that?
got
2025. I've been
yeah.
printing since 2015. My
I was
first
like
print was
the.
a skin-colored benchy boat.
Oh, okay. What was your first gun print then? What was your first gun print?
First gun print was an Are We Cool Yet? I think it was a 48 or 40, whatever, Glock Slimline 43 or 48 frame that took SS80 rails that I didn't realize yet that you couldn't get those anymore. That was the first, maybe other than some small accessories, that was the first actual, receiver or frame, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, awesome. See, Hoffman was my first print. He absolutely millennial trolled me, and I should have known because if you read further down, he says, "But how else am I going to crank my Hoff?" He
There you go.
replies with the
So there's some
A.
knowledge needed to get that troll. That's the I forget which version he's on, but that's the version with the integrated grip.
Yeah,
And if you can't tell, I took all the non-22 essential things out of it. It doesn't have a last round bolt hold open slot. What else is missing? I don't remember what I did to all that, but that was in fusion for an hour or two before I put that in slicer.
so a well
And
worth it
that was
troll.
just to that all the things that Hoffman hates or he says he doesn't like in his videos, I removed and then tagged him.
So if it was a Hoffman hate build, I assume you put an A2 on this boy.
The I don't think I ever got that one running right, to be honest with you, but that was meant to take the crank grip.
Oh yeah. The crank grip the tell me when to stop. Essentially, it's just a for those who are listening and not watching. You've got a grip with a little crank on the side, and you crank that thing. You
Yep.
crank that hog.
Yeah, if it's just like any of the crank, what else would you call them? Not a bump fire grip, because that's different, obviously, but they have one for the 1022. People used to sell these things at gun shows 20, 30 years ago, and that's the version that only works on AR fire control groups going up through the grip screw on hollow grip screws. You either drill it out or use one of those adjustable ones that have a set screw in the middle, and you just take the set screw out.
All right, and so an actual first, this evidence table right here, in Daly City, California. Let's just go over this evidence table real quick. I see a few things. We've got the DB alloy here, an AWCY. We've got the classic AWCY grip, one of the most recovered grips, I would say, in any of them. And what else do we got here?
I don't know what cans those are. You think those are FTNs of some sort? What else would they be, right?
I think they have to be, just because it's hard to tell, but I think they'd have to be.
And then Glock frames these days are a dime a dozen. It's just about impossible to identify who's whose. But as far as I go, the stock on the back of that alloy is the SIG MCX alloy stock that me and one of the guys in Are We Cool Yet did. And it's kind of a shame. That's a nice build, but then again, he looks like he's doing check forgery. If that's the case, fuck that guy. But
Yeah, it's like some things I excuse, but this is kind of fucked up. I'm pretty lenient, like personally, when people are like sometimes caught with like particular drugs and guns, because it's like, companies can run drugs, but this is just like stealing from people. This is fucked up.
yeah, I think most of us in this space, obviously, any laws against guns are infringement to the Second Amendment and all that.
Yeah,
We all feel the same way.
yeah. But
And
I
I'm
mean, that's kind of the
mostly
point. Go ahead.
mostly just do your thing as long as you're not bothering anybody else. Like I kind of agree with you. If they're doing drugs, who cares? But yeah, check forgery. You were kind of asking for it there, weren't you? Whoever that is.
100%. And the thing is, this should be the crime, though. This should be the head-to-head
Exactly.
photo.
That's
This,
kind of what I meant to say in a shorter way.
yeah, this is what led everywhere. This is what they showed everywhere. This is the scary, scary ghost gun. They're like, it looks like he was robbing people for checks with guns. That's what they want to portray it as. In
Right.
reality, there's like three of these are completed guns.
Right.
Like four.
Not that we know unless we follow the case or whatever, but it's like you're saying, he's probably doing check fraud and then just had a hobby of printing guns, and they're trying to make it out to be what you just said. Like they always
Absolutely.
do. They're always trying to build the strongest case for the state that they can.
Absolutely. And the idea that they're these super criminals, right? Like, in particular, we bring like briefly mentioned drugs. Anytime a small amount, like new NYPD, New York Police is particularly bad with this. It'll be like the smallest bud in a snack size bag, like plastic baggie, and they'll be like drug dealer seized
Right.
with
Exactly.
guns.
I know. It's ridiculous. There's been, I forget them all because we see them so much. It's hard to remember exact
But
specific cases.
they
But I've
do
seen some that are just like, come on, man.
absolutely, and they do it with the guns too. It'll be like a war reenactors fucking shit loadout, and they'll have it and be like, "We're getting guns off these mean streets,"
Yep. It's
and it's
anything to
like
push that narrative.
anything to push the narrative, anything to push the narrative. And if you had to guess, what's the next design of yours that ends up on one of these tables potentially?
I mean, I think it would go without saying the EBT is going to be everywhere. This is
I
going to
think
be
so
probably the
too.
cheapest pistol you can build.
I
I
think
can't
so
think. Can you
too.
think of one cheaper? I mean, I've never paid more than $30 for a kit.
The only ones cheap, not in 9, right? Not in 9 millimeter. The only ones cheaper would maybe be like if you hand do the null from just in case. But there's no cheaper 9. It's not even close. And you mentioned like people being able to do suppressors. I would bet money that that next year there's many EBT9 suppressed EBT9s recovered. Like, because of how cheap it is and because how many already exist. People don't understand. We talked
That's
about
the
like
other thing. They're everywhere. It seems like the
exactly
gun brokers just post so many a week. It's just, I mean, it
and
is what it is. It's the crime gun, right? It's cheap.
100%.
Even as OEMs, that seems to be what ends up in, we'll call them desperate people's hands. And it's
Well,
probably the most common thing that Gunbusters recovers.
I would say so for sure. And I don't think people realize how many of these exist. There's one at your local pawn shop, at least, probably 4 or 5, and that's at every pawn shop probably that sells guns. And wherever it depends where you're at, obviously, but in cities, it's not even close. People have these just as a. I know people that keep these pristine, just have them to have them. There
Right.
are so many out there, and they've been produced for years at this point.
We had a guy in the beta go to a pawn shop to grab some, and they had a bucket of them that they wanted him to take the whole thing for like $100. I think he said it was 4 or 5 mix and match 9s and 380s.
Inc-
So I mean, even the pawn, I think a lot of pawn shops won't even take them because they have so many, or they just know there's
yeah,
there's
because
there's no margin on them.
they have so many, or they offer you like $10. Like that's how they make money. Like you
Exactly.
literally like basically trade it for like a USB cord or something. It is essentially nothing, and that's how available these are. And accessibility to me is the most important part of spreading 3D printed guns. That's why the FGC 9 is so important. Rebels in Myanmar could make it. And not like disparaging them, those people are awesome and heroes. But anyone can get this, right? Excuse me. I expect this to take off like wildfire in Canada as well. Because as far as guns go, guns going across the border is the number one driver of gun ownership in Canada. They live in hell. They live in actual hell. And so if you like even if they're overpaying, like we're talking a few $100 to get a gun, that's completely ridiculously under the range of what it is to legally get a gun. And honestly, those legally high limits incentivize people to 3D print. One of a mutual in California was recently searching for a 43X, and it was $800 in California.
Yeah, yeah, no shit.
Like it's fucking insane.
And
So
I bet you that specifically is an issue with that model number because they usually come with a 10 round. Doesn't California have a 10 round rule? So I can't keep track of
yeah,
everything.
they I believe they
I
do.
think that would make the 43. Is it the X? I think the X is the one that goes to 10 from the factory. Yeah, because the 43 only does 8, I think. I don't remember, but that I could see that. Yeah, that would be the most popular model with mag bans.
And we talk about how easy 3D printing is now. It's easier than fucking understanding or keeping up with these confusing ass laws, which they do on purpose. They want the laws to be confusing because they want to rope as many people
Oh, for
into
sure.
cages as they can.
One of my favorite sayings is the purpose of a system is what it does.
Bingo, 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 bingo. That is exactly what it is, and it is so like we could go on like a complete diatribe about that, but that sums it up, right? Like that is what it is. The point is to get as many people roped into cages as they can. We talk about California. There was an 18-year-old busted with 3D printed guns. He didn't ever shoot them. By all means, he was a kid with good grades. He was just interested in guns. And he's going to go to jail for probably a good portion of his young adult life, right? Like, he was facing up to 10 years. Recently in Illinois, a Ukrainian national who came over here when he was a young kid, was in the Air Force, graduated from Boston University, magna cum laude, was a microbiologist, was busted with a ghost gunner and some machined lowers and a 3D printer. And he didn't even actually 3D print any of those guns, I believe. It was just machined, but they didn't have serial numbers. He was convicted, and he's going to go away for a long time.
You know, that's what you're talking about is something that's always bothered me. I actually think a lot about the way law is enacted in this country, or I guess anywhere, because it's human nature, I think. And what I'm saying is nobody, looks at like a case-by-case basis. The law is like, to oversimplify it, we'll say like the law is written for a terrorist, but, the 18-year-old kid going to college who just does this for a hobby happens to violate it. Why are we treating these people the same? It drives me insane.
No, absolutely.
Prosecutors are just bloodthirsty, and they don't. I can't understand it or make sense of it, but they don't seem to concern themselves with the individual case. I don't know if it's a time and money issue or whatever, but the state is blind and deaf to individual cases.
Well, and you mentioned the system is what it does. That's what they want to portray all of us as terrorists.
And right, exactly. You invoke that saying back on it, and it's their goal for some reason, whatever that reason is. I don't really know, other than just power.
Yeah. For example, UNIDIR, United Nations Institute for Disarmament Research, they've recently expanded massively. They have a few writers there who have portrayed us as like radical right-wing terrorists, radical Islamists, of course, Antifa, and you are whatever bill is the scariest and easiest for them to sell. Like, whatever they can get mainstream media and your local news to read, they'll do.
Right.
That is what it is, sadly. But you're totally right.
I don't get where that comes from. It's this weird Karen mentality people have about other complete strangers they've never met in their life and probably never will, that they just have to control their lives. I'm not like that, so I can't even comprehend it, but I've noticed it. The vast majority of people are like that for whatever reason.
No, I can't rationalize it because to me, in a functioning society, these productive, and it's like, I don't even think you need a degree or need to be doing good in school to be productive. That's stupid bullshit. But these perceived productive by their standards people are arrested, and instead of saying, okay, let's get you on a career path, let's get you in a vocational program for CAD, it's we're going to lock you in a cage until you understand what you did wrong.
Right.
And how can you ever understand? Recently, an 8-year-old boy brought a little Lego gun to school. It would fit in the palm of his hand.
I remember that. I was going to bring that up.
And you think this 8-year-old autistic kid understands what the fuck he did wrong? No, you fucking morons.
Like, yeah, I mean, he didn't even do anything wrong.
He didn't because he didn't. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
A boy wanted to show it. Whoa, you're telling me an autistic boy wanted to show his friends something that they could play Imagine with? No fucking shit. Right. No shit.
I mean, if I had a dime for every Lego gun we built through my life, I mean, it's what boys do. It's normal.
It is.
Again, it's this Karen mentality of I don't even know what, but whatever, and they found it to be an issue for some reason. Like I think they think it leads to something, and that's just brainwashing by the media or whatever.
It absolutely is, but it all is just like Karen, and it's something they don't like. And it's like, because I don't like it, I can click my heels and hundreds of millions of guns can disappear. I can
Right.
click my heels and 3D printers can magically not print guns. And it's just not true. Fuck them. Don't let them discourage you. Don't let them scare you. Don't let that fear creep in, even though I think that's what they're obviously doing is appealing to that fear nature, right? Like, you don't want to become a terrorist. You don't want these exploding. You don't want to, and obviously
You know what?
you
Ostracizing's a powerful force for, especially for certain types of people.
a hundred
You know, you
percent.
just giving it the idea. I can even tell you for me, there was can't think of an example, but well, here's one. Like when I first got that handgun, I just turned 21 when I got it. I'm like, is it okay that I have this the day after my birthday? They just put this fear into you. It's not even a fear. It's like I said, ostracization. Is that a word? Yeah. That you're not fitting into society, and we're still tribal monkeys at heart, and some of us are more susceptible to that than others, and it works on some people.
No, 100%. It does, and particularly the young people or the people that don't know about guns. My wife, when I started doing this, had relatively zero idea. The first rifle she ever fired was the Hoffman, and she hadn't grown up around guns, had never
Yeah, same
sharpened
with
a
mine.
gun, and now explaining the laws to her, she's like, "Well, why the fuck are they doing that? That doesn't make
You know what?
sense."
You just reminded me of a great example with her just a year ago when I was starting to, not even a year ago, because my first suppressor that I printed with 3F1, so that would have been, I think I was filing the paperwork, 6 or 8 months ago, whatever it was. She looks at me and goes, I forgot how she said it, but it made me laugh. She goes, I thought you would only need a suppressor if you were like a murderer or something. This is my wife telling me this. Like, oh my God, the programming is so strong. I mean, we've never had suppressors because they're too expensive. I wasn't that into them up until free F1s. So we never really talked about it. I mean, we've known each other forever. And first time I ever mentioned it, she's like, why would you need that? Giving me this weird look like I was planning on robbing a bank or something like that. Kind of
And
had to tell her they're just a hearing. It just makes them more fun to shoot. I don't have to put ear pro on necessarily all the time. And from our home defense gun, if I ever have to use that, you'll be really happy that it's suppressed.
yeah, and people think like we could go like I actually want to do an episode on that eventually. The like myths made by Hollywood. That silencer, you can't call it a silencer. You didn't make it a cricket fart.
Right.
Can't even hear the bullet.
You know what I find so funny about that though is that was one of the things I actually argued to my wife is they're not even that quiet, but
No,
with
it
all us
helps it
autist
slightly.
retards working on it, that they've, at least in my opinion, I think we're coming out with some pretty quiet stuff. I don't know if you saw the integral I made for that 1022 fairly recently. That thing is stupid. I was really surprised how quiet that thing was.
Particularly the
It's still not movie
22s.
quiet, and it is a 22, and the way that thing is designed, it doesn't matter what you feed it, it's all going subsonic, so it is about as quiet as I think you're ever going to get. But it doesn't even have baffles in it. If I threw another baffled can on the end of that, which I plan on trying here soon, I got to file an F1 for that. I'm curious how quiet we can get it.
I mean, with the 22s, that is an exception because you can get it to where you just hear the action, like more
Right.
so, and it's like a peck, like a woodpecker peck, maybe. Like it is so reasonable, and you mentioned being able to shoot without ear pro, but really changing these perspectives is so important. And like we talked about, getting people to shoot guns will change this. And talking to your partners, right? Talking to your start at home, explain stuff to your kids, explain stuff to your partners, and that's really how it happens because now when someone brings up 3D printed guns to my wife, she goes full Reddit mode. She's like, actually, they don't
That's
blow
great.
up. Yeah. And so it really spreads that way. Kind of closing out here, is there any AWCY projects you want to talk about going into the future?
We got a couple started. There's one or two I don't want to mention just because it's other people's stuff and ideas. But one I do want to mention is we're going to do an integral version, or we'll call a plethora of versions of the proto barrel that's integrally suppressed. And I'm going to try to do this so that you don't have to have any fancy tools, because I had to use a lathe to make my barrel. The idea being you can do it all with just a hand drill and then other hand tools and some glue, maybe some O-rings. I wanted to make a version that threads into the GR2 1022 with like some big chunky broom threads. We had some, an AR-15 version. I forgot what else. But yeah, we want to make a whole line of proto barrels, DIY integrally suppressed proto barrels.
That would be incredible. Love to see that. If people want to test or have any questions, where should they hit you guys up?
You want to start in the waiting room of the Are We Cool Yet element space. You can go to the website and find the URL there. You can ask me or any of the Are We Cool Yet guys you see on Twitter or Instagram or wherever. Or if you just download the Element app and search AWCY question mark or spell it out, I'm not sure. It usually comes up that way.
Awesome, awesome. If people want to support you, go follow Lukewarm Designs. Post a ton of cool stuff. You mentioned you post pictures of the process, something I love. It's not just I'm posting the finished product. You go through step by step the development process, essentially, really transparently. Super cool. If people want to support you, how do they do that?
I don't like to take anything monetary, especially with guns, for a number of reasons. So, if you want to help, the best thing you can do is join betas and shoot rounds. That's the biggest issue we'd have is getting rounds down range, especially with the requirements we have in Are We Cool Yet? Any frame or receiver needs 1,000 rounds on a single frame or receiver, not combined from 5 different people's prints to test for durability and longevity. And it's always difficult to get that done, especially when one breaks like at 900 rounds and you got to start all over. But even we have so many things that are just kind of stuck in limbo because people will print them and go, cool, thanks, and they probably do end up shooting it a ton, but we never hear back from them or whatever for the public stuff. But
Yeah, and it
yeah,
doesn't
that's the biggest issue is just getting rounds down range on a lot of this stuff.
it doesn't have to be a crazy spreadsheet. You don't have to break down every round and like have a result picture corresponding with it. Just some simple numbers would really help out. So if you want to go print it, always go test betas. Go and send them pictures of your builds you make. Right, like devs love seeing that. Am I correct? If
Oh yeah,
someone makes an EBT9, post it and tag him. He'll love to see it.
yeah. One of my favorite things when we do a release is the end of every guide. I usually do a gallery of everybody who was involved. So we'll be dropping the EBT very soon here, maybe this coming week. Just having a little mag issue we got to work out, and you'll see at the end there's I don't know 20 builds throughout the last year in the beta here.
And I'll add, there's something special there. It feels like you get a nice little secret treat when you're in the beta, and you're the first to hear updates, or you discover something with your build. Like you have a high point barrel with something weird stamped on it, a weird
For sure.
letter.
I don't know about people, but when I first got in this before I was really deving anything and I was just doing betas, you always get a kick out of being the guy that found an issue or pushed it over the round count to get a release for it. It's
and I
always fun to be helpful.
I think people have the idea that it's like devs will get mad at you or upset if you
Yeah,
find an
I'm
issue.
actually so glad you brought that up because that's one thing I wanted to touch on today is that exact issue. I mean, it happens, don't get me wrong, but it's usually because that guy was being kind of a dick, when the dev gets mad or upset. But the biggest issue I've noticed in betas, besides just getting rounds downrange, is people are scared to speak up. So if I had to give a PSA to the listeners, don't be afraid to speak up, guys. Tell the devs what you find, or if you have any issue. And on the flip side, the only thing I'd say to the devs is stop blaming everybody's issues on their printer, especially these days with bamboos.
Yeah.
It's usually not a print issue anymore. I know maybe in the early days it was, but I have seen that to be an issue too, is a lot of people get discouraged about speaking up because they think their printer's just going to get blamed, which still happens, and it's happened to me.
No, most definitely, and I encourage like devs and people in betas to just take a breath, right? Like, take a breath. You can figure it out. It's just a machine, like it's just a tool, right? You can
Right.
figure out where the issues are. Uh, this is a perfect example of that. A project where High Point is literally saying "fuck it, we ball" on every single
Yep.
every single gun, and you guys sat down. Multiple people added. You mentioned this was a month-long process, and
I think I'd have to go look in Fusion to see when I first drew my first sketch, but I think it'll be exactly a year next month.
exactly, and it's not an overnight deal, right? And there's always more people to work with you.
Well, I have to give a shout out to Whoa, shut it down, live free, whatever handle you want to choose them by, and Vaser 1079. They both put a shitload of rounds down range pretty quickly. If it wasn't for those two, we'd still be at. I think I was the next highest round count. I was in third place, and I'm at 650, I think, right now. So we wouldn't be near release yet if it wasn't for those people putting rounds down range.
And that is, testers are so valuable. You mentioned having round counts, finding problems, so important. And it's never been easier to be a tester, right? The hardest part is figuring out how to get in the element. That should be it.
Absolutely, and dealing with elements bullshit. But I mean, we use it for a reason. It's encrypted really well, so I know it sucks, guys, but you got to deal with it.
Absolutely.
At least in our little space. I know some of the other groups use other apps, social media, whatever. But the other thing too is Element's the only one that doesn't mind us. I know BLC does a lot on Discord, but Discord keeps closing them down.
Well, yeah, they're in Element now essentially because Discord closed it down repeatedly. Yeah.
And I figured that was coming eventually. There's other ways to share stuff. It just gets too it's a pain in the ass to, like, for example, upload your betas on Odyssey with delisted, it just becomes a pain in the ass.
It's such a pain in the ass, and it's never been easier. You get your bamboo, you get your Centauri carbon, you do bare minimum. You don't have to manually level your fucking bed. You don't have to do any of that crazy shit. You literally basically get the files and you press print essentially.
It's never been easier.
It's never been easier.
Like I mentioned, I started in 2015, and it's unbelievable how much work we had to do back then to get a print started that would probably fail anyway.
Oh, I'm sure. And the terror of going to sleep hoping it didn't fail overnight.
Yes, exactly.
Multiple nights in a row.
You know what? I wouldn't even leave my house back then with my printer running because I was scared of it catching fire. Because that's how they were. They all used those cheap ass, Chinese power supplies that had the wrong capacitors in them or fake capacitors or whatever the issue was. And there was so many horror stories online of people's houses burning down from their Tarantula, TiVo, whatever the hell they were called.
Listen to these struggles, folks, and we live in a much better time.
If anybody has printed with a glass bed, you know what I'm talking about. Shout out to you guys.
Oh, the glass bed was crazy. There's so many times I thought I broke it too. You're trying to get the print off, and it somehow flies off. We could go on a whole tangent on.
We could, and I'll just say real quick, I got so sick of that I got an in with my local Ace Hardware where they would just cut me window glass into bed plates, and I would get a dozen at a time. And if something stuck more than a minute or pissed me off, I would just throw it away and start over.
That's awesome.
With the bed and everything.
Ace Hardware is a wonderful friend of the 3D printed gun community. And I'm going to end this with a quote here, actually. I'm on Blue Sky because I like to troll the libs. It's really funny to me. So much talk about 3D printed guns now. And there's this idea that people that are opposing, watching the Louis Rossman video, which everyone should go watch about 3D printed guns in Bloomberg, opposing this legislation by saying you can't 3D print guns. Well, that's just not true. And I explained screws and pieces of metal you can buy, hardware store only versions even exist now. And I got the response, looks like we're going to have to set up a registry and drive those businesses into the ground too. So that's how delusional these people are. They want to register every screw. Thank you, Lukewarm Designs, for coming on. Everyone go follow Lukewarm Designs. Go be a tester. He could use them. Send some rounds downrange. Look for the EBT9. When you're listening to this, it might be out or it'll be out soon. Go print one. Go spread the word. Go scour up your pawn shops. Get those high points collected. Get those buckets of high points. And I will talk to you guys later.